tackle or to analyze the important points of the speech which was delivered yesterday by President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, marking the 71st anniversary of the 23rd of July revolution, the July 1952 revolution. To shed more light on the speech and on marking or commemorating the revolution, we are very much delighted to have with us via phone Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, former Assistant Foreign Minister. A very good morning to you, Ambassador Bayoumi.
Good morning, good morning. Happy anniversary.
Thank you, sir. Before going into the details of the speech of the President yesterday, let's know how do you see the 23rd of July revolution as one of the most important proofs, let's say, of the collaboration or of the unity between the people and their armed forces?
It always reminds me with a scene I have witnessed before the revolution. I was still in my early years coming to Cairo to see the international fair for agriculture and industry in the place of the opera now. And we were in Tahrir Square trying to find a taxi. In Tahrir Square, in the place of the Arab League and the hotel and other places, there were a big British camp, and the British soldiers were playing football in Tahrir Square by that time. That is the scene I have seen, really, how
yourself.
The British occupation. In my city, in Damiette and Ras Al Bar, there was a British camp, and we were seeing those British soldiers living with us everywhere. And it was not always a honeymoon. Anyway.
Yeah.
So then the revolution came. They left the center of Cairo. They stayed at the Suez Canal zone. Then there was a tripartite aggression of Britain, France, and Israel against us in 1956. So we had this battle also. We threw them away.
Sir,
combined with the establishment of the Aswan Haidam, yes, Nasser Haidam, and the nationalization of the Suez Canal. It was a source of the country's battle, and we are proud of what happened that day.
This is exactly what President Sisi said when he said we should be proud of the achievements which were realized on the ground, particularly in our modern history, I mean, after the 23rd of July revolution. Also, sir, building the new republic, how was the, how people received for the very first time an Egyptian president far from the Alawi family? How do you see this as one of the very first tangible results on the ground or achievements right after the July revolution?
Not only an Egyptian, but one of them, coming from a very simple family. In his speeches, he was mentioning that his father was just a small employee of the Egyptian government. He was just a young soldier or officer from the army. And this applies to all his colleagues, Sadat or the others, Baghdadi, Salah Salim, and so on. So we had the opportunity to see people of our families coming from the same level of most of the Egyptians. So they had this ability to feel how an individual Egyptian, the layman, can feel. So they practiced all their policies according to what an Egyptian layman would want or would feel.
Amen to that, sir. And President Sisi was keen yesterday to speak about equality and about offering job opportunities to Egyptians and affording decent life, not only for this generation, but for even the coming generations. We are responsible for affording them with a decent life. To build on what we have achieved, not to replace what was achieved. How do you see these words, and if they are messages sent by the president during his speech?
Here it reminds me with several projects. First, the project of 1,000 factory, and it means creating more than 1 million jobs. The other is the printing and translation of 1,000 books. I bought plenty of those books. Shakespeare, Oscar Wilde, many international books I have gained, and it was for 10 piastres, by the way.
Yeah.
So it was a good opportunity for a young guy like myself to educate himself through those very important books. Another, the land reclamation, and to give the very poor farmer a piece of land, 5 fidans. That was another dimension. Although economically it was not very wise, but socially it was very important.
And maybe its implementation, it was not the right thing by then. What we are trying to do now is to amend the situation, because as you kindly mentioned, sir, socially it was very important. Also,
and this is what life is about. Try and error.
Yeah.
But the whole march, it was positive. It was to face the huge percentage of new population. When the revolution came in 52, we were 18 million. The day Nasser left us, you remember the song of Abdul Halim Hafiz, if you ask for us, we are 30 million ready to help you. Now we are passing 100 million.
Yeah.
So we cover all these challenges, all our aim to be better, and still we are on the road, and on the right road, inshallah.
Inshallah, and the changes and challenges are endless. This is something which is not going to have an end. But returning back to Egypt right after the July Revolution, and for example, to speak about education and health, and how to introduce the education and health services for free for Egyptians. How we received that as Egyptians, and how we took into consideration that everyone can receive education service for free, and everyone can enter the university, and to build more universities. I think before the revolution there were only 3 universities, but after the revolution the state was keen to build universities and to be scattered all over Egypt for all Egyptians.
Yeah. I have seen in my early life people who cannot pay the charge of their school cost, which was £3, by the way.
Yeah.
£3, 60 piastres. And my father was there establishing a small society to help those who cannot pay the cost of their education. Now it came that the education became for gratis. Health also is for gratis. And this should be. I really appreciate this very much, because I have seen plenty of my colleagues who are highly intellectual, highly good at school work, but they cannot simply pay the charge of the school. Now it is not the situation. Now we have people who can go to school, who can go to university without any problem.
President Sisi also spoke about this in specific regarding, or In fact, the head of a state is keen to mention this in all his speeches and in many occasions, investing in the Egyptian personality, in human resources, in the sense of belonging and identity. These are things which should be instilled into the coming generations and the youth in specific, and to know well that we do care about them, that the state cares, that the human being is the most important wealth we have. If you please elaborate on that.
Yes, in my part of the world, I have seen it, that now it is possible for any person in Egypt to be a diplomat, because it is a sort of exam. You can come to the exam. We have 1,000 participants every year to choose 30. This coming also the commercial representation. I have witnessed what is happening in the Ministry of Trade. In our diplomacy, we have seen ambassadors coming from farmers' fathers, or a driver of a train, of a small soldier's son, and so on. So here you can see, even as a diplomat, which is an eminent job, that people coming from very very low class,
from different classes, whatever the class
ordinary classes, they became diplomats, and by the way, they became very good diplomats. Take this in many other
it's how they are good readers, how they are very much cultured, well educated. And as you've kindly mentioned, we are talking about exams and many tests that they have been through, and since they passed them, then they are qualified. True?
Exactly, and I always say I am proud of our generation now, although some people are complaining that they are not like what we would like to see. But I participated in the exams of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, in the Ministry of Foreign Trade, also in training of the young people in many organizations nowadays. And really our young people are up to the standard. They are aimed to know everything, every detail. They know many details. I was really amazed by their wish to know the realities, and by their knowledge also. The average gentleman, young gentleman in Egypt now, is highly educated and highly cultured.
Yes, amen to that. Ambassador Bayoumi, if you please, I'd like to turn back to this period of time when the revolution took place, to speak about, once again, the relation between the security personnel in general, whether it's the army or the police and the people. Because I think that what happened in El Ismailia on the 25th of January with the police, and which became after that the police day. After that, we are talking about the free officers movement. The relation since then between the security personnel and the people is getting closer, and we feel this kind of unity, and it developed all over the years with many turning points in our modern history, since the tripartite aggression, then the 67 defeat, then the 73 victory. How do you see the start of this very close relations between the security personnel and the army and the Egyptian people, starting from July 52 until the moment?
No, it started at 25th of January 52, when the British Army insulted our police in Ismailia. And that's why the whole country came to reject this. This brought us closer and closer to our police people. And of course, they appreciated this very much. Also, the army was not happy about this. That was one reason of the many reasons our revolution came in July 52. And I have seen our army coming back from El Fallujah in Palestine, and I have seen them in the Opera Square. By that time, I was just a child, proud of our army that they did all whatever they can. And this, as you well said, bring us closer to each other.
And we don't forget the sacrifices of our sons. President Sisi yesterday, he saluted late President Naguib, late President Nasser, late President Sadat for all what they have done. So when it comes to our memory, to the nation's memory, we do not forget the sacrifices of our great people.
Yes, and I must tell you a secret. Don't tell anybody what I'm going to say.
I'm listening.
President Sisi asked me once in a celebration whether I have victims in our wars. I said, I have two cousins, Hamdi and Bayoumi. He lost his life in the tank battle in 73. And his brother, he was dead also in the war of 1956. So there isn't a family in Egypt who did not lose one of the family for the sake of our cases, especially for the Palestinian question. And this brings to our memory the role of Egypt in the Arab world, the role of Egypt in Africa, the role of Egypt to establish the non-aligned group, and the development group, which we call it G77, which now reached 139 countries. They are all have very good memories with Egypt, very good memories with the generation of Gamal Abdel Nasser, Nehru in India, Tito in Yugoslavia, Nkrumah in Ghana, and so many leaders. They used to visit Egypt, and we have seen them in many conferences Egypt was hosting.
We inspired the whole world with this revolution. I mean, to get rid of colonization and corruption in the same time, and to work for the sake of our great people, of our great nation. One final question, sir, regarding another message which was sent by the President in his speech yesterday, the path of development. If we do not have a struggle against occupying forces, for example, or a war, there is another battle, which is the path of achieving sustainable development, of reaching the new Republic, Egypt 2030. To take this into consideration, as it is now a battle which is not less by any means than any war or any battle we have been through long ago.
Yes, and I call it the most important battle. It is the battle of the future of our children and grandchildren. And it's going well. Although lately we have seen international disasters coming with the corona or coming with the war between Russia and Ukraine, but still, although all the countries of the world are diminishing, the economy is diminishing, Egypt is among very rare 5 cases where we are still developed positively. Not enough, but we shall double it, of course.
Inshallah.
And this is something very important. I don't want to finish before reminding you, because you are a fine lady, that I am proud to say that I was the first group in the diplomacy who were among them a lady, Huda al-Marasi. So the revolution gave the ladies also their rights to elect, to participate, and to be a diplomat. Huda al-Marasi, then Mirvat Tilawi. By the way, I was my boss in Bonn. It was Ambassador Aisha Ratib.
Aisha Ratib, of course.
One very eminent professor.
Yeah?
Yeah.
She was a legend.
Then one of my bosses, it was is still living. My goodness, and I have many ladies heading my departments. Faiza Abu Naga was the last minister I worked with. She's younger than me, but she was a minister. This is something I have to mention with all proud, and I look to this as a very positive result of our revolution.
Well, this is really great, and thank you for the exclusives I had in our conversation. We wish, inshallah, that next time you are going to be my guest live here in the studio to speak in detail about each of these memories, Ambassador Bayoumi.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your input, sir, and you're always an added value to our programs.
Thank you, thank you.
Well, we were very much delighted to have with us Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Right after the short break, we are going to return back with more, so stay tuned.
Goddess Sekhmet was called the Great Sekhmet, the Lady of the Two Lands, or Sekhmetat Nebettawi. The two lands are the north and the south of Egypt. The word Sekhmet means the powerful, and it coincides with the nature of the goddess in her vicious